Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of your day. I hope you have a wonderful day. It's supposed to stop the heat wave here in New York, so I'm hopeful that that happens. Guys, as you know, I'm at that job where my eyes go looking everywhere, but my head, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Guys, you remember the Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt, 8 passengers, you know, where the kids, the little boy ran out of a window in Arizona down the street and asked a neighbor for food, and they found that he had been detained, and they found his sister, and the woman that was responsible for it was their mother, as well as their mother's therapist. Remember all that? Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt. Guys, in my playlist, check it out, 8 Passengers, if you don't know. Anyway, there's a woman named Paige who has done now a 3-part episode called Under the Rug. And it explains her relationship with Jodi Hildebrandt and Franke. And I didn't realize that, you know, a couple weeks ago she had done part 3. And as you know, I've covered part 1 and 2. And again, I found it fascinating. Just fascinating. So right away, Paige is talking about the manipulation of Jody and how she was under the impression that Jody was, now this is the therapist that was giving everybody advice and while she was doing this, she had clients. So the reason why the Hannahs took in Jody was because Jody was a danger to herself. Now, she wasn't sharing this with anybody, except them, because she wanted to stay with them. I don't even know if this is true, because Jody is a master manipulator, just a master manipulator. And what Paige realized was that Jody was telling people different than what she was practicing. Now, Paige says, she tries to explain, because she says there's an exception there, and that's not good. You're right, that's not good. But Paige explains it like this: the evidence of the highest amount of pain. No. Cultism. See, that's what's going on there. When somebody tells other people how to live their life, but yet behind the scenes lives their life a different way, it's hypocrisy. And if they have any kind of authority in a way of life about these people, it is cultism. Cultism. Just so we know. So, watching this, and I'm going to show you the clip, Paige is very eloquent. I don't believe what she said, you know, and a few of you have written to me when I've talked about this before, that Toddy, Paige just wanted Jody to throw in one cult and follow her and her husband's cult. Now that might be true. But I still think some of the things she says about Jody are true, and they can help us understand who Jody is. Ruby, those were her kids. There's no excuse there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like Jody's been broken for a much longer period of time, where Franke, the mom of the kids, the 8 passengers, matriarch, the one that manipulated her husband. I know that Jody had Ruby doing it, but it seemed like she was enjoying it too much. You see what I'm saying? That's what it is. It's like, it wasn't a fight over, oh, I can't let go of Kevin, oh, the love of my life, which she says, you know, as she apologizes so that she gets no more than 4 years. 4 years. Can you imagine if she only gets 4 years? Those kids will live with that memory of how their mom treated them like that. It will be baggage that they will carry and that people will pay for. Their partners, their future partners, perhaps even their children will pay for if that woman gets, and the fact she can get 4 years, she is going to get less, like I said, than Jodi Hildebrandt, because she rolled on Jodi Hildebrandt. And she was promised to do less time, so that she can get out in 4 years. Some of those kids still aren't going to be of legal age to make the decision to say, I want nothing to do with you. So, anyway, let's listen to this and we'll talk about the next clip. So, listen up.
I started seeing the amount of pain that Jody had been bearing. She had already confided certain things in me. And so when she was discussing with this healer, I could hear she was omitting information. I could hear that she was telling a story one way when I recall it happening a different way. So I could see she was manipulating the situation. If you were a suicidal person seeking counsel from Jody, I could only imagine that she would tell you, like, the counsel she would give you in different ways. And this was back then. And I could hear that she was not living what it was she would tell others to do. So she was the exception to the rules, the exception to her teaching. When somebody is living as the exception to the world, the exception to how things are taught and done, or the exception to, let me put this into words. When somebody lives as the exception to their own teachings, or to the laws of the land, or to the laws of God, it's the evidence of the highest amount of pain. When I witnessed her doing that, I started understanding the depths of what pain she must have come through.
What do you think about that, guys, huh? So it gets better. It gets better now. This takes a much more serious turn as well, because what Paige finds out is that Jody was diagnosed with DID, dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called schizophrenia, right? And that she had these unalived ideologies, Jody we're talking about. And that's why, of course, Paige opened up her home. Paige and Johnny Hanna opened up their home and allowed Jody, insisted almost practically for Jody to live there. And Paige talks about what seems her own guilt and why she wasn't able to stop the monster in motion, Jodi Hildebrandt, in getting to the Frankies and having access to those kids and totally assisting in causing the damage that was done. And she says that every time she wanted to, that she tried to approach Jody with, maybe, if we tell people, if we let it out in the open that she needed a little bit more help or something, everything turned to how Jody would use that as an excuse to unalive herself if Paige should say anything about that. But there was something that was brought up at the beginning by what Kevin said in the police department in that little interrogation when Kevin brought up the Hannas, and he said something about Jody used the word that she was kidnapped by the Hannas. So finally, Paige wants to talk about how that came into play. And I'm not even going to try to do it justice. So we're just going to listen to this clip and understand the manipulation firsthand through Paige Hannah of Jodi Hildebrandt. So listen to this, guys.
There was a great support system here. She had very close friends who were with her and were understanding these same things, who knew of her past, who knew and had done a good job of hiding, allowing her to live in this state of denial. And I had approached Jody and said, you need a support system. We need to tell others about this. And there were some couples that were very close to us that I said, we need to call them and we need to explain to them what's happening. And every time I had suggested a greater intervention of telling more people, I was met with, no, because then the voices in my head will get worse and then I will this, which would end in suicide. She had even asked when she came into my home if I would take her car keys, because if she had access to them, then in the middle of the night, she would drive away and cause an accident on the highway. I see how, because of me following and believing those things, she could then go to the Frankies after me and say she was kidnapped. I told you, she would tell 90% truth with a 10% lie. She would say something to the effect of, she took my car keys. She wouldn't let me go anywhere. She would lock the doors. And all of that is true. But I did it because she told me to. And she told me if I didn't, she would kill herself.
So as Paige is like living through the drama of the memory of having Jody for about 6 weeks and now having to deal with the fact that she told people, so she's on the defense because we as the public have heard that there's a possibility that maybe Jody was taken against her will or kept against her will, which I think that's kind of what Jody and Ruby did together to the children, right? So no pity there, but clearly Paige Hannah is saying, I don't want any of that. That is not true. That's untrue. And then, Paige continues on with why she was suckered into taking care of her and finding excuses for her, meaning Jodi Hildebrandt. And that's important because that's the way we build idols, false idols. That's the way cult leaders are made. Okay, so that's really important. And I'm going to go ahead and play that small little clip as you see somebody who's really just torn down by something so innocent, she thought, that had turned into something so hellacious, and how she stood back watching it without realizing what was happening, and then living with that guilt of having it happen, right? And what to do, and how to change the perception of people that look at you now so that you hold no responsibility and no guilt or shame in that.
It's really hard to go back, like I said, and visit that 6 weeks. The first week I was very much sucked in to this idea that her suffering was something that I could aid in mending. The second week is when she had started going into actual memories. And when I learned the suffering that exists, the real suffering that exists in the world. The third week I was exhausted and started recognizing more severe behavior. And that's only halfway through. So I'm going to leave it here. And I hope what I said made sense. Because remember, I'm answering the question, how could this happen? And it's not just how could this happen to the Franke children, but how could Jody get to this place? So, okay, Thanks for your time.
You know, I don't hold Paige Hannah at all responsible for Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke. I don't even hold Jody and Ruby responsible for each other's behavior. I hold them each accountable for their each own separate behavior. And as far as I'm concerned, if they never get out of prison, I'm okay with that too. So, guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. Tell me what you think. Talk in the comments. I'm in the comments too, guys. I'm there. There's just a lot more of you than me, and I appreciate that. Guys, a lot of you still write to me, toddy1skip@gmail.com. Please know I check my emails. I try to respond to all of them, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. You guys are changing my life, so thank you for that. Guys, be better today than you were yesterday, not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. Always be kind. Never be Jodi Hildebrandt or Ruby Franke. Guys, just be yourself.